How we doing, folks? This is going to be political commentary number 10. The USA is at a boiling point. Yes, that's a pretty volatile statement, but I believe it's true. I am going to continue on my Matthew series. I am a little bit behind since the 4th of July. I need you all to keep my mom in prayer. She's elderly. She's 91. She's having some issues, so she was really sick the other day. And I spent most of the day trying to take care of her, which I lost a whole day of study time. But I did just put a new message up on GBC, Grace Bible, gbible.org. If you see it on my homepage about angels, it's my third message on angels, so that'll count for a message this week. And I will finish up another Matthew message. Today's Thursday, probably by Saturday afternoon, I would hope. Saturday, early in the day, I'm going to be at Heritage Park, Fall River, Battleship Cove, right over the bridge in Fall River, are doing an outreach program there. So I'll be speaking there and evangelizing there. So if you're interested in the Massachusetts area, Heritage State Park, this Saturday, the 21st of July, around 12 o'clock, we'll be there, 12 to 5. Let's get right to it. Let's talk about the boiling point here in the United States of America. I got a bunch of notes. I'm going to go through them, and I want you guys to pay attention. Go back and listen to this again a second time so you can pick it all up. Very important. A Secret Service agent suffers a stroke while protecting the president on a golf course in Scotland. Not necessarily new news, but the problem is, as usual, when it's something very important and there might be something sinister behind the scenes, it's quickly swept under the rug. That is what happened with this golf course incident in Scotland. The story was swept under the rug very quickly. There was a paraglider, if you watch and look for it online, a paraglider went over the golf course with a large anti-Trump banner against Trump while President Trump was golfing. And it was a big motorized paraglider with a big sign and all this kind of stuff right over his head, probably 30 or 40 feet overhead at one point. Now, as he landed, the Secret Service and local officers went to chase him down. Now, Scotland supposedly got Scotland Yard and these great officers. I'm not sure why it took hours to find this guy. I know it went into the brush or the woods or whatever, but you're talking about a big paraglider and a guy with a sign, and they could see where he landed. But yet it took hours. And it was almost like a lot of them were kind of lost in the brush or something. It took hours for them to find this guy with the large parasail and the anti-Trump sign and the equipment. When they did reach him, he was way off in the woods, and one agent suffered a stroke, supposedly, and was rushed to the hospital where he passed away. So our hats are off to the Secret Service for protecting our president. But this is made to seem just like a small medical issue, and it was Greenpeace that promoted this thing. Greenpeace was the culprit behind this prank, but it was quickly swept under the rug as usual because it had very suspicious overtones to it. I just want you to think about that. Donald Trump was golfing, Secret Service, Scotland Yard, or whatever was all around. This guy flies over, parasails over with an anti-Trump sign. It looks kind of innocent. A couple hours later, they find him, I guess. They found the equipment and him, and one of the agents suffers a stroke. Keep in mind, this is right before President Trump went to the meeting with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. Just before. Remember, I told you, they don't want him having meetings in North Korea and Russia. The deep state, the Illuminati, the powers that be, don't want peace. They don't want the curtain lifted and us to look behind the scenes what's been going on all these years. I'll reference my viewers back to something. And I brought things out about the CIA before. I'll reference you back to studies and cases back in the 1970s and the early 80s when the CIA had to openly, this is a fact, look it up, openly admit it used experimental drugs on people. MK Ultra, remember that? LSD. Also had a project called, I find this very interesting, heart attack gun or a heart attack shot that they were perfecting. The CIA, okay? Do the research in the 70s or 80s. They admitted some of this stuff already. Just like they admitted they used the media way back when called Operation Mockingbird and infiltrated the media so they could tell us what we wanted to hear. But then by the 70s or 80s when they got caught with all this stuff, they started to say, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. And they did this across the board with everything we caught them with. If you don't think they're not still doing it, you're fooling yourself, okay? But it was a project called Heart Attack Gun or Operation Heart Attack Shot, something along those lines. They were perfecting it way back when in the 60s or 70s from what I understand. Just think about that. Think about this stroke of this agent. Think about the extenuating circumstances. Yeah, I know you're going to say conspiracy theory. Guess what about that? The term conspiracy theory, who do you think made that up? The CIA did. They fed it to the Mockingbird media, and the Mockingbird media pushed the narrative. The CIA made up that term conspiracy theory. Do you know why they made that term up? And this is all stuff you can find out. You know why they made the term up? Because they don't want people looking under the covers. They don't want people looking at them. So anytime anybody looks at anything, the CIA, the NSA, or any of these powers that be that do behind the scenes, and things look suspicious, they start saying conspiracy theory and try to make the person look like a nut. 75% of the time, maybe they're right. 60% of the time, maybe they're right. The problem is 25, 30% of the time, there is somebody coming forward with accurate information that's being called a nut or a conspiracy theorist. And you're going to find out, I think the percentage is much higher as things go on because it's a volatile time. We are at a boiling point. Trust me when I tell you. All the facts, folks, they're out there. Do your research. It's just very odd to me, this whole thing that happened at the golf course. Look at it. A lot like many of the shootings we see in Vegas and Orlando and other places, when it's swept under the rug and there's a lot of questions still hanging out there, that's when you know something's up. Now, the meeting with Putin upsets many globalist elite, just like the meeting with little Kim in North Korea, because it is dissolving that global power structure behind the scenes and any chance of war that they can manipulate in the future. War is big money. It means all the contracts that go out to the metal companies and the ammunition companies, oil and gas and fuel is used, all kinds of things. Currencies in third world countries get to be manipulated. Leaders get replaced during a war. A lot of things happen that the elite love to use. Now you see a president going around and squelching all that and opening up the curtain and shaking hands with different people that they don't want, people that they've either controlled or that they've always wanted to make look like the boogeyman. And in this case, they like Russia being the boogeyman, trust me. Putin is an ex-KGB agent and a very shady guy. Absolutely. No doubt he is doing his fair share of spying on us, just like China and the British do on us just as well. And by the way, America, we spy on all the other countries. We interfere in elections. Check out Barack Obama, what he did with Israel and some other places. I am fairly certain Putin is not part of the globalist elite, the Illuminati families I tell you about, because he's more interested in Russia maintaining independence and power on their own, not becoming a global one world government. Putin's not interested in that. Is he a problem? Yeah. Does he kind of have a thirst for power? Yes. Is he into spying? Yes. So is a whole lot of other countries. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying he's not part of these Illuminati families. But the interesting thing about this meeting with President Trump and Putin is some of the subjects they both spoke openly about in front of the press. We don't know what went on behind closed doors. I believe a lot of good stuff. But listen to me. What they said to the press, listen to it. Listen to it again. The Clinton Foundation got brought up. Illegal deals with the Clinton Foundation for billions of dollars got brought up. There was another gentleman's name that came up that's a shady guy that did deals with the Clintons. That came up out of Putin's mouth. What else came out of Putin's mouth? George Soros. That name came out of Putin's mouth during that conference. What else came up? President Trump brought up the 30,000 missing Clinton emails that are gone, supposedly, but we know a lot of them got recovered. The DNC server that was never inspected fully, and the Awan brothers from Pakistan. They were working for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC at the time, and they got brought up as well by President Trump. Listen to that conference and listen to what got brought up and think about what's going on behind the scenes that I've been telling you is going on. Trump came across as very mild to me, all right? Very mild in front of the media with Putin. Some say weak. It bothered me a little bit at one point, but then I kind of realized what he was doing. I believe there was a method to the madness, as we would say. And President Trump had to come home and walk back his comments, but I'm certain he meant what he said. He meant what he said. He does not trust the former CIA leaders, the FBI, DOJ leaders, because he's seeing documents and things behind the scenes that incriminate all of them. He's already witnessed to it. This has already been going on for years. I believe longer than I even thought before. I'm gathering some different information about how long the military intelligence has been working with Donald Trump over the years to get this cabal of the Bushes, the Obama, the Clinton mafia out of our government, because they're all owned and operated by big money families like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the Bilderberg groups, all this kind of stuff. Trust me when I tell you. It's all bubbling to the surface, therefore boiling point. Yes, it is bubbling to the surface. I think some folks that are our white hats, the good guys behind the scenes, told President Trump to walk back some statements because it was becoming much of a distraction, too much of a distraction, and they need to finish wrapping up all this illegal activity that's on the radar right now. There's a lot going on. It's coming to a head. It's like a pot that's boiling. FBI attorney Lisa Page is flipping on her boyfriend, Peter Strzok. She's flipping. The information I'm getting is she's throwing him under the bus, and she's telling some of the truth, not all of it. And realize, The IG report is not fully redacted yet. In other words, we got bits and pieces of it. When they finally release all of it and the other portion of the report that is behind closed doors, you're going to find more and more information. They still have hundreds, possibly thousands of either emails or texts behind the scenes of different FBI agents and different people. Not to mention the Clinton emails. Think about these things. Uma Abedin, right? Her husband, Anthony Weiner. Remember his laptop I told you about? He's under arrest. A witness came forward recently, about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, on the Seth Rich murder case, and that is one that I believe will explode up and cause a lot of problems. Seth Rich, look him up. He was a part of the Democratic National Committee campaign, and he was a patriot. Yeah, Democrat, Republican, they all could be the same, folks. This guy was a patriot because you know what? He discovered certain things on emails and on computers, and he took it and saved it and discovered that, yeah, the Clintons were screwing Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders or whatever, out of his chance at presidency, and they found a bunch of other stuff. What happened to Seth Rich? 2 shots in the back of the head. The body, here's another one. The body of a woman who was supposed to be a future witness was found in the dumpster outside of Anthony Weiner's apartment 2 weeks ago. Look it up. 2 weeks ago, and almost no media coverage on it. A witness against, the Clintons and all this kind of stuff. Her body was found in a dumpster at Anthony Weiner's old apartment building. The Seth Rich murder case, that goes back over a year. He was a campaign worker for the DNC who uncovered emails and documents that proved the Clintons are corrupt, and he was shot in the back of the head twice and left with his wallet and jewelry intact. Not robbed, but yet it was immediately declared by the D.C. Police Department this was a robbery. Yet nothing was stolen from him. 2 execution bullet shots in the back of his head. And guess who he had been in a restaurant with that day or earlier that day, or possibly even right before the shooting? One of the Awan brothers from Pakistan that are under investigation, that was sending information back to Pakistan. Muslim Brotherhood, anybody been telling you about that? Think about it. Seth Rich is most likely the guy, listen to me, most likely the guy that gave all those documents and damaging emails and all that stuff to WikiLeaks and all the other sources behind the scenes. Probably not the Russians. Though they like to infiltrate things, I'm not going to say they're not. That's not what my point is. I'm just saying they're getting used as a scapegoat at this point, more so than you realize. The Russians, Chinese, Saudi Arabia, and the British Empire all have spy networks active right now as I speak. They try to infiltrate Washington, D.C. all the time. The reason that Russia is being targeted, and I believe this from my personal studies in the last year or two, the reason they're being targeted is because they are not part of the Illuminati owned and operated family. Therefore, they want them targeted. They want them to be the bad guy. They want to be pushed. They want us to be pushed into some kind of war with Russia. They would love that. In fact, if Hillary Clinton was in office, we would probably be going to war within the first year or two of her presidency. I can almost guarantee it. It's big money, and it's how they're going to get their hands on one world government. They get us in a war. They collapse our economy. There's a couple ways to do it. Inner strife, you know what I mean, a rebellion within our government, a rebellion within our people. There's several ways they can do it, and they were planning on using 2 or 3 of them to collapse everything. Believe me when I tell you, Obama started it with Obamacare too, and all the things he was doing, collapsing our economy. But they're all infiltrating Washington, folks, all of them. Chinese, the Russians, the Saudi Arabian, the British Empire. But yet we always target Russia. Guess what? We do the same thing. We infiltrate them and we mess around with them. It's been going on for 100 years, folks. Get used to it. Russia may be a military threat. I would be a liar to tell you that. At some point, they might be a real threat to us. But what I know from my study in recent years, they are not in bed. They are not in bed with the Illuminati families. They're just not. Trying to have peaceful talks with the other superpower who has nuclear weapons is actually a smart move for any president. It's a smart move. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The old strategy is, it works, okay? We will not make it into 2019 without a major scandal in Washington, D.C. We will not make it into the first 2 months of 2019 without a major scandal in Washington, D.C., much bigger than we have right now, because everything's opening up. We are at the boiling point. This is what this is about. I believe some of the key American players, like the former leaders under Obama's administration, are going to be taking a hit. And it's long overdue. And I'm talking about Clapper, I'm talking about Comey, I'm talking about Brennan, I'm talking about Lynch, Holder. The list goes on and on and on. Some of these folks are finally going to get caught. In fact, I'm hearing Robert Mueller is going to give a deal to the Podesta brothers, which is wrong. I heard he's going to cut a deal to them. If he cuts a deal and uses them as a witness against Paul Manafort or anybody else that I'm hearing, I'm not 100% sure on it, it protects the Podesta brothers because they cut a deal that they can't be prosecuted for their crimes, sick crimes. These two, the Podesta brothers, are part of the Clinton Mafia, okay? And they have dirty hands. There is even allegations. Look up Pizzagate. It's not false, but there are allegations, I believe, and I believe them about the pedophile ring with the Podesta brothers. I believe it. I believe it. Think of the weapons they can use, though, going forward into 2019. Civil unrest, we already see it. Civil unrest, one side against the other. Economic collapse. And I want you to think about something. All these people, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, Lynch, Holder, Strzok, all these big names, start doing some research on them. I don't care if it's John Kerry. Do some research on him and his father-in-law, how his father-in-law died. Find out where they come from. Trace them back. You'll find out some folks, I think it's Brennan, was into the Communist Party. And then find out how somebody like Strzok or Comey got in the FBI. And you're going to find out, connect the dots. Don't pay attention to Republican or Democrat behind their name. That's nonsense. There's plenty of Republicans I'm naming here, like what? Comey and Clapper, supposedly Robert Mueller. That means nothing. The Bushes were Republicans. They're part of the Illuminati, folks. This is all one big family. So what I'm telling you is, you have communists, you have connections with Comey that go way back to the Clintons. Comey made millions of dollars with the Clintons when he was a younger man. James Comey. Okay? Eric Holder. He's always been running interference for Obama and the Clintons. Loretta Lynch. Liar. She's been taking care of the Obamas for a long time. We still don't have any clarity on where Barack Obama really came from and information on his school. Dig up, do me a favor, get off this video. Go dig up all his records all the time, anything he wrote in college, his thesis on this and that. Find out all the information you can about where he went to school. Find out about his social security number. Do the same thing with Michelle. You might not come across a couple of pictures as Michelle as a little girl. Very generic looking pictures. But I want you to go back and do some research and look at some things. And remember something. You're dealing with the CIA here when it comes to cover-ups. They can make anything or anybody look like anything they want. So I'm just telling you right now, we are at a boiling point. Two things I'm concerned about right now. One has to do with the economy, because I know the Federal Reserve is owned and operated by Illuminati families. They can collapse an economy, and if they can't get at Donald Trump in one way or another, eventually the main thing to do to get rid of a president is you collapse the economy, because a bad economy means the president's gone. Okay? Civil unrest is another way, and they're going to keep using civil unrest. There's a movement right now called the Walk Away movement, and it has to do with a lot of young Democrats, Hispanic, Black, gay, straight, all kinds of stuff that are walking away from the Democratic Party because their eyes are being opened up about the corruption at the top level with the Clinton Mafia, guys like George Soros and Obama and the Bushes even involved in all this, and what's been going on behind the scenes. But find these people that I'm telling you, these names I'm throwing out here, the people that you have question marks, and do some deep research. Find out where they were 30 years ago, right? If they're in their 50s or 60s, find out where they were at 24, 25 years old. What did they believe in at that point? Were they affiliated with any communists? Were they affiliated with any Muslims? Were they a pro-American, anti-American? And when did they make a big change to become so patriotic? Find out how many dead people are in their path. With the Clintons, it's probably about 100. Do a body search on the Clintons. In fact, companies like Google and Apple run interference for the Democratic Party, and they run interference for the Clintons. You can't find the Clinton body count anymore when you Google it online. It used to be up there. It's up to about 100. Now, when I'm just this last witness I'm finding out about 3 weeks ago, this lady that was found in a dumpster outside of Anthony Weiner's apartment, I would say that's probably a number 101. Go back and listen to everything I said. Get on your computers, but realize you got liberal and you got conservative websites. You got to go back and forth between both, and you'll see the difference. But dig. We are at a boiling point. So pay attention. My sources that I trust are telling me between the end of August And the first week by November 11th, between end of August and November 11th, a lot of things are going to be released. We're getting little drips and drabs with all these people testifying and the IG report slowly being leaked out. When it fully opens up, it's going to open up between the end of August and that first week in November. And I think there's something big going on November 11th. They're talking about a parade in Washington. I think it's going to have something to do with some finality with all these corruptions going on overseas and people finally getting rounded up. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just telling you. I have some decent sources. I don't ever open my mouth until I get some kind of truth behind it. I'm even finding more and more about the JFK Jr. airplane crash in the late 1990s, right before Hillary Clinton started getting deeply involved in politics. That's very interesting, but I can't elaborate on it. But there's some interesting things about JFK Jr. as well, and he would have been a threat if he's gone. Some say he's not, but they never found his body. I think they found bits and pieces of the plane in the ocean. Never found his body. These are things to think about, folks. So I'm going to leave you with that. And like I said, keep my mom in prayer and realize I am a little bit behind. I'm extremely busy. I'll be back with a Matthew message within the next couple of days. Please be patient. I'll be back on track. And I did purchase the GoPro camera. It's going to take me a couple weeks to figure it all out and try to integrate it with my new Apple laptop. So all this stuff is going to take me time. Be patient. I love you all. Every head is bowed, every eye is closed. Father, we thank you for this time that we had. We're asking you to bless our president. Take care of this country, Father. Let the truth be told through your son's precious name, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.